No, one day I want you to tell us how that works one day. Like, how does that type of business work? Because I have friends that are doing paparazzi. I have friends that are doing, that are still selling Mary Kay and, selling products and doing very well at doing it. Paparazzi.
Exactly.
And along with their everyday day job. So it's another stream coming in. And I believe you started yours like a year ago with the
That's correct. That's correct. Yep. I started my jewelry business a year ago, and I also have a home-based travel agency that I do.
Okay.
And I started that 2 years ago. So I
Okay.
just believe in multiple streams of income. I don't want to be on my day job till I'm 65. I want to be able to venture away from that job comfortably and have enough streams of income coming in where I can do what I want when I want. And if I don't want to do, I don't have to do. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But I want it to
Exactly.
be on my own terms, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And on your own terms is where the power comes in. You have the power to suggest how your future is going to be, and it starts now. And what we do now is going to give us a better future. And that's why I'm so into this topic, not, because there's so much, if we bring it to the forefront, and really start working on that one thing. And then like you've done, it has multiplied into other things. And now you just, you're multi-talented. You can do quite a few things to generate money for you. So I like that. I like that. Okay. All right. Anybody have any comments? All right. Anybody else have a side? I'm gonna say it this way. Anybody else got a side hustle? Okay, well, see, Angela, you're an inspiration. Okay, because that's what we're trying to do: generate other streams of revenue, and there's quite a few ways we can do it. And I wanted us to walk away with some ideas and then come back and say, hey, why not try this, or why not try that? So to help us to get out of our to get financial stability and to be actively working on that, to be actively working on that. Okay, so I'm going to go on to our next thing here on our slide. I don't think I'm sharing anymore. Let's see. You guys can't see that. Hold on. I'm sharing that. Yeah, man, I got real excited. I was able to share in the group. Figured I had figured all that out. And then I was getting all this feedback. So, okay. Good habits and bad habits. What stands in the middle of that V? Anybody know what stands in the middle of that V? Choices. The choice of which way we want to go. And I could say consciously and subconsciously, we can make good and bad choices. But, as a coach, once again, I'm bringing it to the forefront to get us to think about some of the ways we are doing just that, fostering good habits and trying to get rid of these bad money habits, because it's in those bad money habits that kind of keep us from going where we're trying to go. And if we're not really thinking about, like, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix it? And, then we'll just keep doing the same thing. And that's not what we want to do. We want to make a radical gold diggers, to make radical change, to make some improvement in our financial situation. So it's our choices. So this is the power is in our hand. Now, this next slide here, I'm not judging anybody on this next slide. I'm not judging anybody on the next slide. And it's just bringing some of the things that we already know to the forefront, you know. And here are 11 habits keeping us broke or poor. All right. This week, I'm going to talk about some bad habits. And next week, we're going to talk about some good habits going along with some of the entrepreneur things that we're going to be doing to improve our status. So right now, I have before you, here are 11 habits keeping you broke or poor. And this is just, some of these may not apply to you, and some of them may say, hey, I could do better in this area. You know, this is no judgment. It's just to think about where and what areas can I improve in. This is what this is all really about. And number one, it says, don't have a budget. You know, you don't have a budget, or you don't keep it up to date. And if you don't have a budget, how do you know how much money you're earning, spending, and saving? So a budget is very important. Without a budget, it's very difficult to accomplish our financial goals. So that's like, you know, that's a major step to see what is the budget. You know, a budget is all about knowing how much you earn so you can set spending targets and hopefully save some money, you know. And just knowing how much you're spending can help you spend less because you become more conscious about it. And I know somewhere along the line at Gold Table Talk, we talked about that, you know, the money we just spend on just eating out, you know, just calculate that for a month and see how much that is. So I know we've talked about that. And, you know, let's just say if you didn't grow up in a good environment where good financial habits were taught, a budget is the first step to becoming financially aware. Now, Angela grew up where, you know, the family were very instrumental in helping her foster this entrepreneur spirit that she has that's benefiting her, you know. So, you know, we try to teach our kids young to how to save money. We give them piggy banks, you know, but even as adults, we need piggy banks. We need to be saving some money. You know, me and my husband for many years have kept the water bottles that go on top of the big filters, have kept one of those water bottles, and it continually just throw change in it. And then like by the end of the year, we're dumping it out because it's Christmas time and it's, we got to buy gifts. And it always came out a few $100 was really saved up in there, just change. So that's just another way to just take that chump change and just throw it in there and forget it, you know. And now he has one in his area and I have one in my area. And that's, you know, just another way. But anyway, getting back to a budget is very important, very important. And I'm going to stop there and say, is anybody working on a real budget that's benefited them in that they are not only tracking what they spend, you know, they're tracking what they're saving? Well, the part of that that said not keeping your budget updated, that was me. Mine is a little dated there. You know, I'm using it, but I haven't updated it. Okay. Once again, number two, not aware of spending habits. That's very, very important. Spending too much money on stuff you don't need. Anybody gonna say that they do that?
I can.
I do.
Yeah. One of the
I
ways
do.
one of the ways that I track how much I spend is I stop using cash, because when you spend cash, a lot of times you don't get a receipt and you don't know where it went. And so I stopped carrying cash. I carry limited cash and I use a card for everything. I make my teenage son use a card for everything. And then we go back and we look and I said, I dare you. I told myself, I dare you to look at how much of your money you spent on eating out. When you tell me you want something tangible
Mhm.
that you're going to be able to see, I want you to go back and look at your bank account, because you swipe that card, and now the money is gone. But it gives you a way to go back and look. And I learned that at a young age, in my late teens, early 20s. I had an American Express Gold Card. And in order to get my credit to boost up, I swiped it for everything, and I just paid the bill in full at the end of the month. And they give you a list. They give you a readout at the end of the year how you spent your money. They break it down by travel and food and all this good stuff. And I'm like, whoa. So yeah,
Okay.
it
Okay.
helps to track it.
Okay. It does. It does. Thank you. Anybody have anything else before I go on to this next one? That's a good one. Use, it's like two ways. They say, well, if you spend with cash, right? Then you don't use the credit card. But if you use it as a debit card, then it's like using cash. So that's the the good part about that.
Right. And pay the bill in full.
And pay the
If you
bill
pay the bill
in,
full, you
in
have no interest.
full.
Right.
Mhm.
You can't spend what you don't have in your bank account, even on the credit card. In theory.
That is true.
And
Okay,
can I add to that?
sure.
Along the credit cards, it's also you want to use those credit cards to kind of give you cash rewards or points or some type of rebate. So you could take advantage of that.
Okay. Yes, I had a girlfriend that used her Chase card, to earn points that later translated into money. She could cash out of it because she earned a certain amount of points. So cards that have benefits like that are worth it. They're worth it. You use the same, let's say, debit card to build points.
Right, like the cashback rewards.
Mhm.
So when you have that, you could either pay towards your bill, or you could even exchange for gift cards, say at Target, for a time and a half in value, or whatever vendor that offers that, or twice the value. So you could just pay $25 for a $50 gift card. So they're like all these little gimmicks. Yeah.
Yep, it is. It is. And it's to see which ones apply to the ones that we have. Maybe we don't even know about the incentives on some of the cards that we're using, but there are some. There definitely are some incentive, and we need to know what they are. So that's good. What about holding on to stuff, giving it to a false sense of worth? Okay. Have you ever been to someone's house and it's packed full of stuff, right? Or maybe there's the one with a bunch of stuff in your own house, right? When people buy a lot of stuff that they keep in their house, it can create a sense of being, like you have a lot, right? Well, some of these things are not really helping us. If you're going to do this, you feel more. It says you feel more like you have more, but in reality, you want to spend on things that not having a lot of the same thing, but spend on things that have some value to it. So buying stuff is one habit to keep you from buying stuff you don't need, is to keep you from going broke. So that's another one. Holding on to stuff, giving it a false sense of worth, buying cheap or quantity instead of quality, that's another one. And you slow me down if there's one that speaks to you. You don't, another reason that that we could be going broke because we don't have a long-term goal. Well, that's what Gold Table Talk is all about, is having goals, long-term goals for our future. And that's what we're doing now. Our goal now is to make more money. So what do we need? We need some goals. And that was last week's homework, is to come up with creative ways to do just that, right? What about not investing extra money? You know, somebody said, well, who has extra money? Who has extra money? Well, you'd be surprised. And I just talked about just change alone, you know, change. And you'd be surprised, you know. So that's, you know, not investing extra money. Or look around, maybe you do have some extra money and you never really thought about it, you know. You could use something and say, well, you know, I never thought about I could use that as to make extra money. So, you know, you never know.
Reverend D, you know, that goes back to what you were just talking about with having lots of stuff. Take some of that stuff and put it on eBay, put it on those sales sites and sell some of that stuff. Take that extra money and pay off a credit card or invest it. That's how you know, you got to look at the different ways that you can earn by getting rid of some of the extra stuff that you have at home.
Absolutely.
And just selling it, you know, and paying off a bill or putting it in the bank, or, you know, that way you're not touching your savings or your checking, you're taking that extra money and doing something else with it. So that's another way.
Yes, that's way, because I'm going to tell you, I love to go to thrift stores. I love to go to estate sales. And I just love to do these things because you never know what somebody may deem junk may be exactly what you've been looking for, you know. But I need to do that. I need to get rid of a lot of stuff, you know. My sister introduced me to this store called Labels. You know, well, I need to get rid of my labels because I'm not really using those labels like I used to, you know, my pocketbooks and all those things that I may have. And some of it is timeless, you know, and you can still get a good penny for some of those pocketbooks, if you will, you know. So I think we can look around and find some money and like Angela said, and sell it, you know. This site called Labels, you know, you can put your pocketbook on there and they'll give you, you know, a month. But if people don't come back to get their items, they keep them. they got a business going on there. That's a racket. You know, you ever put something in the cleaners and you forgot it was there, you know? So they're hoping that, you know, these people really didn't want it and then they're not going to come back for it. But that's just something to think about. Look around and see where you can possibly sell something you're no longer using and make that money and pay off a bill, right? So that's a good one. So not investing extra money, don't pay off your credit card balances. Well, let's start there. That is a whole subject right there, paying off your credit card balances, you know, and then when you pay them off, not to run them back up. Well, I've lived long enough that I paid them off and I ran them back up. I'm like, how did I do that? I paid it off and I ran it right back up. And the thing is, it happens so quick. And now my mindset's a little different. It's, you know, I don't want to use a credit card unless I have to, you know, unless I have to. I want to go somewhere and be able to pay for it because I want to keep good credit, you know. It's sometimes as soon as you make a purchase, some of your credit cards, you can get an alert from one of your creditors that it's already been flagged, you know, and then your credit score a drop a point or two. So, you know, the credit game is a real game that if you play it to your advantage, you're wealthy just with a good credit score, you know, you're wealthy with just a good credit score. Anybody have anything they want to add to that conversation on credit, using your credit cards and keeping a good credit score? Because you got to use the credit cards but you got to pay those bills. So anybody else want to add anything to that?
Actually look at the percentage. So it's like your like not income to debt ratio in this case, but like the overall credit limit that you have and your usage. So if you use 3% or if you use, 70% of your credit limit, they kind of look at that and then so your credit score is also based on that. There are other criteria, but that's one of
Right.
them.
Right. Absolutely. They're looking at the percentage rate. And yeah, that is very, very important that we keep that credit score at a good position. So if we have to use it for a big purchase, because that's when it's really going to come into play for something big. So,
Could I ask a
money.
question here?
Sure.
In reference, well, when you're talking about the credit card balance and using 30% of it or using 70% of it, what are you actually saying? That the more you use the card, the better off your credit is?
No, it's two things there. They're looking at, let's just say one credit card, you used 100% of it. That's going to reflect negative. But if you use 5% of it, okay, and they see your credibility that you paid it the following month, that's going to pay off favorable, because you're using it, but you're not using a high percentage of it.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And just to add to that, you want to have the higher available credit available you have. So you have a credit card that's $10,000 limit, but you're only using 1,000. They're saying, okay, you have 9,000 available credit. So it's that percentage as well. It's the used versus available, and you want to have more available credit. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is they pay off their credit card and they close the account. When you close the account, you now have no more available credit and it goes down. Your credit score goes down. And people think that I closed the account, so that should be good. It's not. You want to pay it off and leave the available credit and just be disciplined and not use it.
Right.
And if you have cards that charge you a yearly fee, that's no good. Get rid of those. But you want available credit on a card that doesn't have a yearly fee, that they're not charging you if you're not using it. And then you just want to use it occasionally and pay it off because you want to have the most available credit possible.
Okay.
Right. And let me tell you what they used to do, mortgage companies, if you were going to buy a house, and I don't know if they still do this, but before, they would want you and make you pay off that debt, but now, like Lisa said, you have to know how it works. They want you to pay it off because they don't want you to be able to use it and not be able to pay them back. So they want you to get rid of, those credit cards. But now we know how the game works. You need to show that you have this available, and then obviously be disciplined and not to use it all up. So, but yeah, that's a good one.
When I paid off my credit at the beginning of the year, my credit score jumped by 100 points within the first 45 days.
And you didn't close them out. You
did not close them out.
Right. You kept the limit. So, if anyone here has to get that credit together, these are some of the, some tricks that really work, and find things to sell. I bet you have some things to sell that you're not even married to, like, oh yeah, I could sell that. And it's just sitting there. You got money just sitting there, so I bet there's some things that you can let go of, let's see. Number 9, if you don't have a financial plan, I had said last week, that I wasn't the expert in financial planning, but that my sister was. She does it for a living, you know, and I want to get her on here to help us be more financial savvy, you know. So these are my little notes on that. While you may think financial planning and a budget are the same, they are different. And not having a financial plan might be one of the habits keeping you broke. A budget is focused more on next month or the quarter, while a financial plan is focused on the next decade, if you will. You know, you got to plan out your future there. So your financial plan should be a model for how you're going to achieve your financial goals. It should lay out how your investments are expected to grow over time and how you plan to build your wealth. So this is, you know, this is something that we have to get more serious with. Let me see, someone put something down in the chat here. What's the name of the site you mentioned for selling online? Oh, it was called Labels. And this was a store here in Atlanta that has to do with just labels, people trying to sell their labels. And then of course is Posh, I think it's called Poshmark. Lisa, you know that one where you sell labels and clothes? Is it Posh, Posh, something like that? Anybody know about that one? That's another one. Yep. But
Yeah, I've heard of that one, Poshmark. I've heard
Yes.
of that one. I
Yes.
haven't tried them before, but I have heard of it before.
So,
So the one you were talking about is an actual brick and mortar store. It's not an online.
no,
Oh, okay,
it's,
got it.
it's a store, and they have a few of them. They have them for men. You know, they have a men's store and you know, women's, and then upscale. It's like somebody really took this business and they ran with it, because one thing here down in Atlanta, we have a lot of it's like Hollywood down here. They shoot a lot of movies, and they have to you know, dress these actors. So a lot of people, you know, they'll buy all this stuff, and then they just gonna give it right back to try to get their money back if they can't take it back. So, you know, it was so funny. I had some relatives down here, and I took them over to Labels, and we saw an actress walking right out of the store with her head down like this. And when she lifted up, it was like, wow, you know, we were shocked. And that's what she was doing. She went in there and gave a bag, and she came out with a bag. You know, so this was, you know, it's a serious business. And God, I can't think of her name. Deborah, can you remember her name?
It's Pam. It was, what's her name? Pam
Pam
Arnold.
from Martin, from the show Martin Lawrence. That it was Pam. That's who it was.
Tashina Arnold. Okay.
Yes, and she was,
Tashina.
and she was,
Thank
she had
you.
on her shades and everything. And then when we made a comment to her, you know, the cousin said, "You brought everything in the store," because she had bags. And then when she looked up, it was like, "Oh my God, you're Teacher Arnold." And it was hilarious. But look at that. She was making money, you know. She went in there and got stuff at a fraction of the cost of those labels to do whatever she was going to do. And she had went in there and gave back labels, you know. So it was a racket, you know. So that's a good one too. So going back, right, don't have a financial plan. We're going to see if we get the professional on here. Reverend Dr. Denise Page, because like I said, she does this for a living. And I jumped out of my questions. There it is. And then another one, a lack of confidence discussing money. Well, how does anybody feel about that? Okay. Well, here's my little notes on that. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't feel confident talking about money and finances. This habit can be keeping you poor because it's a negative mindset. most of us did not grow up in an environment where financial literacy was important. You probably remember learning about the makeup of a cell and difference between plant cells and animal cells than money. But compounding interest or debt amortization were not covered, right? Did we really learn how to budget and finance in school? You know, so this has created a lack of confidence in talking about money and finances. But how are we going to achieve our financial goals if we're afraid to talk about money? You know, for me, I'm not really afraid to talk about money. You know, I want to talk about money. That's why we're talking about it tonight, you know, because I feel like the more we educate ourselves in money, the better stewards we'll be of money, you know. So I like talking about money, you know, and how to, you know, make better choices or business choices with my money. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Okay.
Hold on, sorry, couldn't get unmuted. This is Lisa. So one of the things that I share very openly, and I always tell people, you know, I'm not bragging and I'm not trying to, you know, make it seem like I'm more than I'm not, because it was nothing but the grace of God that helped me to buy my house. But I literally bought a house with no money in the bank, no down payment, and it was, you know, over 200, you know, I'm like, I have a house that's over $250,000 and I got approved for it. I didn't even make $50,000 at that time. I had some money under 10 grand in a 401k at that moment. I didn't even have to put that on the application. And it was just nothing but the grace of God. But I fell in love with it and I went for it. My credit score, I think my highest credit score was like a 670. And I got approved for a whole house. And I was like, wow. So when people are like saying, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, I'm like, you just have to make it a priority, go fall in love with it, you know, do the paperwork and see what happens. I gave them 3 post-dated checks for the earnest money. And I got approved. And 13 years later, I'm still in this house. And now I have like $200,000 worth of equity. So I took a risk. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but the risk paid off because the one thing I knew is that my mortgage was going to be around the exact same amount that I had been paying for rent. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So let me just go do it. The worst thing they can do is tell me no. And they told me yes. And I found a lot of people are afraid to take that leap and afraid of ownership. And so I always share my story that, you know, I didn't have any money to put down. You know, you can't look at somebody else's situation and say, oh, well, they had to do this and they did. So forget that. You have to go in your own situation and your own faith. And, you know, your story is not going to be what everybody else's story was. And so sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith. And so, yeah, so I tend to share, you know, that kind of information and stories, especially to younger people who have been taught that, you know, it's a bad thing to own a house. There's a lot of responsibility and it costs a lot of money and things happen and you have to prepare it. You know, you don't have anybody to do it for you. So I just try to share that kind of information with people. And sometimes it's probably TMI, too much information, but if it's going to help somebody else, you know, I'm like, I'm an open book when it comes to that. Like, you know, it's not a secret. You can go look it up on the internet and see what I paid for my house, you know, so it's not a secret. Me giving you the other little details that's possible. I just hope, you know, would help somebody and bless somebody else.
That's good. That's good. And I was, I don't see Des on here tonight, and a couple other people heard me last week say that, you know, you have everything you need to get where you're going. And why you may think that, oh, I don't have money to make money, but if you had the mindset like you had, Lisa, you use your mind to make money. You know, you went out there and said, okay, well, I'm going to have faith and I'm going to go out here and go through the process and see what happens. And it worked out for you. So you never know until you try. You know, you never know until you try. So
Can I, this is Leah. Hi, Ravdi. So I just want to touch on the point that this, you know, will lack confidence discussing money. Not really that, but sort of along the same lines. I remember in the past, like say with coworkers, if we're in the same position, especially women, you know, like we get paid less than men if it's the same position in a company. So I would always try to promote discussions around salary. Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. With female coworkers, if we're, you know, doing the same type of, we have the same type of roles and responsibilities, even at a different company, like my girlfriends, I would, you know, encourage my girlfriends to kind of openly discuss that, because that's how we help each other out, because we're already getting underpaid. And then we should discuss how much we should get paid and where everyone is, to kind of, when we negotiate for salary, or when we ask, you know, ask for a promotion, or we're up for promotion, we're up for a raise, that's how we can kind of support each other. So I think open discussions, you know,
Well-
shouldn't be like, oh, we don't talk about that. No, we should. Yeah.
Well, they have conditioned us. Don't talk about your salary. Don't talk about religion, you know, and certainly don't talk about race. You know, these are the things that you're not supposed to talk about on the job. But as it relates to women knowing what, you know, we're getting paid and how we can, you know, help one another, I think that's very important. You know, somebody, I would tell somebody, you know, if we're trying to get promoted and we're trying to get our salaries or our requisitions to be more than what they are, there's no way of knowing unless you're in HR what they are, or you're the manager, you know. So we have to talk about it and you know, help each other out. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to give a little history here. I had this conversation today and talking about wealth through real estate. You know, in World War II, when soldiers came home, the Black soldiers weren't given the same opportunity to buy houses. They weren't given the opportunity to get their school, to go to school. But today, you can take that opportunity and buy a piece of real estate. And my point was to this person, now that was about 70 years ago.